the apples that they use there?
Yeah.
Okay, who ran that evaporator?
I don't know, but they dried it with sulfur. And them apples are just as dry, man, we used to eat all night long, eating those dried apples with that dried with sulfur.
How do you dry an apple? I thought they heat it and they shrivel up. That's not how it happens?
Well, they shriveled
I don't know
up.
one thing about it.
But I don't know whether there was no blower, it was just the heat underneath we had nothing to do
Whatever
with
was
it.
in the place.
Coal or something, but the heat that shoveled had no gasoline engine running an elevator, shoveling them apples into the elevator, and the thing would just slice them up. And, yeah, that was, now we had a couple of years, we had a job there for a couple of weeks.
How many people would be there besides you and George and Jean?
Just 2 or 3 of us is all, not very many.
Were there some women working there?
Who?
Women?
I don't know whether there was women sorting or what. Somebody had to do something.
Well, what did you put the dried apples in, crates or something?
I have no idea. All the time they were in this big room, probably 12 by 12 with slats on the floor, just cracks between them, and we'd have to go up there and turn those apples over so they would dry even and things, shake them up, and then that was, well, before morning come, we'd go up and stir everything up and things, and then come home and try to get some sleep and then go to school.
How old were you when you were doing this?
Oh, we were probably, when we were 14.
So
Big kids.
would people take these apples like to a railroad siding and
I
ship
don't
them?
know where they went. I don't know where they went.
I don't remember anything about the place. We kids thought it was spooky, and we didn't like to walk by there on our way to school because it was spooky.
Now, it was only used a couple weeks a year, right?
Yeah.
I don't
So it
remember
looked
it
probably-
being used at all, but
Not
of
used
course
for
we
it,
just went by it.
drop
at
apples
school
were
time.
on the ground and the people, Dad used to drink, we took 2 or 3 loads of apples down there that hadn't dried.
So these were apples that weren't good enough to be shipped whole.
Fell off the trees and worms and all, dry everything.
Huh.
Somebody had to pare them, I don't know who pared them and things, but I know the slicer, I can see that slicer going around, the apples dropping onto it and shaving the things off and things, and I can remember that, but we were more busy shoveling apples than anything
Well,
else.
have you seen that picture of the apple evaporator at the Reeds Corners Church up on the bulletin board there?
Yeah,
Would that have been like turn of the century or?
yeah, it had to be,
Because there were several men and women in that picture.
yeah.
Now, if you were born in 1920, you probably don't remember the World's Fair, do you?
Well, I went once when I was a little kid,
What do you remember about it?
and I can remember the man sitting in the cubicle up there barking out the horse race. I can see that just as plain as if it was yesterday, and the horses going around in the sulky and things. And
Now, you say sulky, was it a 1/3 mile sulky track?
I don't know how far it was around, but I know they had 5 or 6 races a day, and everybody went to see the horses.
Now, wasn't it like a 4-day season in October?
I don't know how long the fair did run. I know the ladies, they were always doing their quilting and sewing and things. And
Now,
Dad took us once. We went in past Gerald Gage's down that driveway
Across the creek.
to get to it.
weren't there 2 ways to get into the fair?
Yeah, there was one in there by the church somewhere.
Was it by the church or the hotel? You think it was near the church?
I don't know.
I don't know. No,
I wonder why your dad would go by Gerald Gage's if there was another way closer to here. Oh, His place.
Like, you mean where the old hotel used to be?
Yeah.
They would go in there. I
Did
don't
they?
know, probably end up in the same place. You'd have to go through the creek.
Yeah, they still had to go through the creek gauges to get into the place.
What else do you remember besides the guy calling out the races?
The only thing I remember is the horses going around the outside of the sulky horses, one horse on a two-wheel cart. And I can remember, it really wasn't too exciting to me because I couldn't figure out what they were doing. But the other thing that I remember about the fair was, well, my mother, I think, must have went, took us through the ladies where they had quilting and sewing and things, which wasn't my bag, but
Yeah.
my mother was into sewing, my grandmother. I can remember going through the building. I don't remember seeing horses and chickens.
You have a building here from the fair, do you
Yeah,
not?
this one down here is the old one of the horse barns.
Your shop
Yeah.
was were there two horse barns?
Yeah.
We had another one like the
Yeah, there were
shop.
2 horse
Only it
barns.
went east and west, back of this one.
So did your father-in-law buy the horse barns?
Yes, I don't know who we bought them from or,
Well, when they closed up, when they had the auction,
Yeah.
probably.
That he moved them up here with a team of horses on a wagon that he built with had low wheels on it, or the axle was low, had plank, probably 30 feet long, and put this building in 3 sections, brought it up across the fields with a
Across the field.
fields with a team of horses on it. Used to have the wagon out here in the old pig yard years ago.
Did you go to the auction when they closed up the?
No, didn't-
I wonder why, because that must have been quite a lively day when they sold off all the
It had to be, you know.
buildings and stuff.
Frank Arnold, or Frank Henry, he lost a lot of money. He had an invention, a little box about 6 inches wide and a foot long, and a crank on the side, and a perfume bottle inside. You put a penny in, turn the crank, the penny would drop in the slot, and the wheel would turn, and you put your hand underneath it, and 2 or 3 drops of perfume would come out, and things. And Frank, somebody made it, sold the patent to Frank. I don't know if he sold the patent or not, but he sold it to Frank. And Frank put a lot of money, and he bought, I don't know how many he bought, because when we bought the Henry place, we had a big bonfire burning them all up and things, and never kept any of them, which just makes you want to bang your head against the wall and things. But Frank lost a lot of money on that. They didn't last very long, and they didn't turn many dollars at all.
Was this an old canning? Was this a place down across from where Raymond's lived that you burned? Wasn't there
Yeah,
some? What was that? I just barely remember that.
Well, that was when they had fruit. That was a packing house.
Okay, who owned that? Henry's?
Frank Henry.
so
I don't know who was.
I think it was Frank's.
Yeah. And then when we bought it, Dick Henry was building an airplane in it and things. When we bought the place,
Now, who's Dick Henry?
Dick was Frank's boy. Yeah, by his second wife.
Is this any relation to Elwin Henry?
Well, I suppose all the Henrys are related.
Cousin or
I
something
don't know, I
in a way.
suppose so. But, you know, he was also, his brother was Fred Henry, of course, the lawyer in town.
That's
Frank's
Dick
brother.
Henry's brother?
Frank's brother.
Frank's brother.
Yeah, Frank.
Was it Frank's brother or was it Dick's brother? I don't know.
But, so this packing house, when was this used and when would have been its high point?
Well, I don't know what year we bought the place, but it hadn't been used in a packing house probably, way back in 36 or 35, someplace in there, small orchard, more pears than there was apples in that orchard and things. There was an old sorter in there, hand sorter, I can remember that when we bought it and things. And so it really was not in good shape at all. We just tore it down and,
That was used for apples and pears primarily?
yeah. And,
Now, would they sort the stuff and put it like in crates and ship it to market?
now you put it in wooden baskets.
Wooden baskets?
Put the covers on them and wire the covers on so they couldn't come off. They had to have a liner inside the basket so that the wood didn't cut
Touch
into
the
the
apples?
fruit. And,
Was that just a heavy paper?
Yeah, it built like a basket, and set it down in, and then the cardboard over the top, and then put the cover on, and wire the handles together.
So would you take this stuff by truck to Canandaigua?
They came here and got it, didn't they? I don't remember.
Eventually,
Yeah, most of the time, and his father did such a good job that he had buyers come here and pick it up as soon as he had X number of baskets ready to go.
With big trucks?
Yeah. You know, big trucks then was,
Pretty small.
smaller than now.
And would they ship to like up to Rochester? Would they go to New York City or?
I don't know where they, I think probably New York City.
for
now,
a
yeah.
while there, for
Huh?
a while, they took some to the train station in Canandaigua.
Yeah,
And some of it was shipped, but I don't think that lasted but couple years or so.
and his father raised some dams and plums. And apparently it was a good market in Boston, W.H. Layler. And you had to have them in 2-quart baskets with the covers on them. And we used to pack them up and take them out, put them on a train, and ship them to Layler, Boston. And then went by for a couple, 3 years, and I bought a new Studebaker pickup truck,
Wow.
and got a flat bottom on the back and flat deck on it. And we figured out that we could drive it to Boston and spend 2 days in Boston, enjoy ourselves to Layler, and come back and still have more money than putting it on the train
Really?
and shipping it. So for a number of years, we'd load the truck up a couple times a year, dams and plums, Ann and I head for Boston and unload them and stay at a hotel, get out to the park, feed the pigeons, and then...
You go to a Red Sox game at all?
Huh?
You ever go to a baseball game in Boston?
Yeah, we went and saw the Boston Red
Yeah,
Sox.
yes, we did.
And we wanted, we made the mistake of, not mistake, we didn't know, we wanted Parker House rolls made in Boston. So we wanted Parker House roll and oyster stew. Well, we went to this restaurant. This
I
morning-
think it was the Parker House restaurant. It was very elegant. We probably never should have gone, but it was fun. All we had was
So we were
oysters
going to go
too.
before the ball game started.
Uh-huh.
So we got there, and they come out with this silver trays with a dome on them and things, and I'm going to help myself, and the waiter's got a towel over his
Yeah.
arm. No, you don't touch that. He bails us out. Now we're in a hurry. He's taking his time. Well, we missed part of the ball game because it was so long getting the oyster stew. It was good though, wasn't it, Darryl?
What years would this have been?
Oh, this had to be, probably, well, it had to be about 48,
That late? So you saw Ted Williams then?
because it was before we went into the machinery business. And we went into the machinery business in 1950.
Then you must have seen Ted Williams play then.
Huh?
You must
Yeah.
have seen Ted Williams.
Yeah.
Now, you and Anna started going to the Baptist church down here. Christian Endeavor was before your time. Was there,
Oh, we went to Christian Endeavor.
you were in Christian
Herb
Endeavor?
did too, for I think a year or so. I
Was there
still have
something-
one of the Christian Endeavor programs that they had, and
Was there something between Christian Endeavor and then Missing Link?
No,
There was no group between
no.
Christian Endeavor and the Missing Link.
Christian Endeavor, we used to invite Cheshire over. We used to go to Cheshire,
I don't remember much about that, but
up in Baptist Hill.
there was a young people's group after that, and we did, I don't know whether that was when, that might have been when Profios were there, but we did go back and forth there. The group at Cheshire and our group would go back and forth once in a while.
Was this when you were sharing the minister?
It must have been, because I know he preached in Cheshire.
Was this,
Profio did.
okay, so you had Profio, wasn't Ross?
Ross,
both
the
churches
Rosses,
too?
yes, yeah, they were,
Here's that after Profio.
yes, come to think about it, I think it was Ross's.
Now you two were going to the Baptist church when the two churches federated, didn't you?
Yeah,
Okay. Now that was because of economy and dwindling membership in both churches?
couldn't keep them both going. 3 months in each place, it was just,
The parsonage that was with the Baptist church, I remember ministers Gerdot and Richards living there, but were ministers living there before then?
you know, Ralph Ross lived there. Rosses lived there all the time they were here.
Quite a while.
Where did Profios live?
They were before Ross's.
In the parsonage?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how long before your time the parsonage was owned by the church?
Oh,
I don't remember. Maybe, I remember the Profios, and the Gerdots and like that, but
I don't know
who was
when they
before
were there.
Profios, I don't know.
Was
well,
it-
it is by the parsonage.
Because I remember we got the first shot I had ever had, I don't know, it was a TV shot or something we had at school. And I remember they gave me a shot and I fainted, and they took me over to Profios, and they put me to bed over there because I fainted.
Really?
That's all I remember about
Okay.
that, so. I
Now,
don't
that
know
was-
whether I was in 5th or 6th grade or what.
That was Anna's home church, the Baptist church. Was it, did you have some strong thoughts about that they should merge or shouldn't merge?
No, I don't remember having
No,
any.
I
I think my parents, my father especially, he wasn't very happy about it, but,
yeah, Ann's father just didn't like it at all. But Ann and I knew that we had to merge with them and have to give up the church. And at that time, there was a couple of churches around, I don't know where they were, but people used them for something other than a church. And I know the deacons and everybody voted if we merge, somebody has to take the old church down, out of sight and out of mind. And they sold it to Charlie Blakesley up the road where Barb Hovey is now. That barn is part of the old Baptist church.
Was that primarily the Sunday school wing of the church, or was that a good share of the church?
Good share of the church.
I wouldn't know about
I
that
think it's all the church
at all.
up there. I think
Oh.
Charlie Blakesley got the whole works.
Did Charlie Blakesley live there before
Oh, yeah,
Bellinger or Behringer? Or,
yeah, Charlie lived there.
who was the guy that was their blind guy, wasn't he? Behringer? Or,
Oh,
That name sounds familiar, but I,
did you help tear the Baptist church down?
no, and then Charlie come in and done the whole works.
Other than the wooden offering plates and the lectern and the old sign for the hymnals, is there anything else new at the church that you know?
The deacon bench came out of the old Baptist church.
The deacon bench that's in the back of the
In the
church
back.
now?
yeah.
Okay, and also the baptism or the
Oh, some of the,
silver.
silver.
Okay. Tell me about your venture with George and John Deere.
Well, when I was working for a John Deere dealer in Gorham, Garl Oates, peach of a guy to work for because he was spending his wife's money, and so we just had a good time.
Was this two places east of the funeral home?
Yes, right, yeah.
The
And
last place,
so with that, why George thought that right after the war, there was going to be a lot of farmers wanting machinery.
Because stuff had worn out during the war and you couldn't get
Yeah,
replacement?
and Garl Oates wanted to sell because I'd worked for him for, well, ever since 1936 off and on.
What did
nights
you
after
do?
School and things like that as a mechanic.
So you'd go to school and then go up after school?
Up after school and worked for Garl and worked for him on, Dad let me work for him on Saturdays. And
Now,
so,
there wasn't the need for you and George and your father so much because now you had tractors?
oh yeah, we did, well, Dad knew that he couldn't keep us both home and things are what we had to do, and George was ruggeder than I was. And so, then George decided that, well, Garl Oates, he kept saying, you guys ought to buy this place. And George said, well, if I'm going to buy something, I want to buy a going business. I didn't want to start from nothing. And so George convinced me, and I guess it didn't take very much convincing, but he convinced me that I should come in with him and mortgage this place we live in right now to raise money to buy stock for John Deere, something we needed to operate and start buying the building from Garl Oates. You know, I actually bought it from his wife Lillian. And so George, I could do mechanic work and I could sell, and George would do the book work. And George got his wife Frances to do the book work, and Frances would have done a great job at it, but George wouldn't listen to her on, we're running behind on this and things, and Frances was trying to tell him, and I stayed away from it. I was busy out in the shop working
Yeah.
on
well, at
tractors.
that time, they needed money and she got a job over to Newark. And, so that kind of ended that.
So she was a good bookkeeper, but George just wouldn't give her a chance to let us know that we weren't going to make it. Well, we stayed there 9 years, and at the end of 9 years, we hadn't made a cent. In fact, we'd lost around $40,000 in the 9 years.
Did you really?
And we decided that, and we had so much competition, 3 miles from us at Turnbull's, and Don Howard at that time
It was a big deal.
was a big dealer. He was going all over,
Wasn't he the biggest in New England?
oh yeah, Pennsylvania, every place. And so we had competition between them and all the dealers, and we were just a little one starting out. And so we,
Was there Ed Pease's place by then?
no, Ed wasn't going then.
What was located where Ed Pease's building is now? What was there?
Larry Ledgerwood had owned the building. I don't know if he had coal there or not.
Why would he sell coal from there instead of down by the railroad?
I think he had the extra storage space up
Okay.
there for coal and things like
So
that.
you had the implement dealership for 9 years. Were there a couple of years that you made some money at it, or it was just a drain?
No, just a steady drain. It just couldn't, we wanted to sell a color packer, and we could buy one color packer you had to pay for them within 90 days. And maybe 2 Cullipackers, and Don Howard would buy a whole truckload. And he could sell his Cullipackers for what it cost us
To buy.
to buy one. And you just couldn't compete against it. And so Howard Turnbull come along, and he's wanted to know if we wouldn't sell out to him. And,
Did he already have a dealership over there in Hall?
oh yeah, yeah.
Why would John Deere allow 2 dealerships so close together? Didn't
Well,
they care?
They didn't care where the dealership was as long as they got money. They didn't care where it was coming from. And we always often wondered why they allowed it. And so with that, why we just kept going in the holes, and we gave it back to Garlows, and Turnbulls come over and bought all of the stock that we had and things.
And you said you don't have any pictures of your implement dealership.
No,
Who else worked with you in the shop?
well, the one that started with us was Slim Bergstresser, Bill and Bob Bergstresser's father.
Okay,
Was a good mechanic and a good welder. And we had him out in the shop along with myself, and George was supposed to be on the road selling and bookwork along with Francis. But George was, well, he bought some beef cattle from somebody, I don't know where he got them from, and then he bought a tractor of his own and things. And I didn't pay no attention to it because I was just busy working, doing what I was doing. And the place was going downhill financially. And so when Howard Turnbull offered us to take everything and take it out, well, John Deere was happy with that. And then I went to work for Turnbull's.
when you were working for yourself, how many hours a week were you working there?
Well, Johnny had Saturday afternoon off, but there was generally somebody had a problem on Saturday afternoon, but we didn't work on Sunday, but stayed till 7 in the morning till 5 at night, and tried not to work Saturday afternoon, but
Were you farming here too then?
yeah, we're moonlight farming it at the same time, so it kept me busy.
What were you doing when you had hay to get in? How did you have enough hours in the day?
Well,
Bing and I and the kids.
Ann was the hay lady. She could bale hay. Milford Washburn, he loaded it on the wagon.
Was that Don Washburn's father?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, they would bale hay and mow hay and rake hay and bale hay. And the strange thing was they had a wagon load of hay, and they're going down the Henry place, at a big barn down there. We're putting hay in, and I'm working down to Gorham, the John Deere place, and the wagon tipped over. Did you run the ditch or something?
Yeah,
And tipped the wagon over, the load of hay, and they picked it all back up, Bing and Ann and the kids, got a couple of kids, and
Now is this Dale and Fan, or who were
yeah,
the
they
kids?
were in on it some too, as I recall.
well, they weren't going to tell me because they didn't want me worrying about the load of
Well,
hay.
he had
tipping
started
over.
to have a little heart problem then, so we didn't want
Somebody
him to
getting
know.
hurt and things. So I come home, 2 or 3 days, everybody was happy, nobody said one word at all. I'm in the restaurant, drinking coffee, and somebody said, anybody get hurt when the wagon tipped over? What wagon is that? Well, that's your place there.
They
So then I
didn't.
come home, I can see the look on Ann's face yet, and I ask her, what happened to the wagon?
Now, in the 30s and 40s, did you have 2 places to buy gas in Reed's Corners? Was there Washburn's and then the store?
No, just, I never bought any gas at Washburn's. Always bought just at the store.
Just at the store.
Yeah,
Now, before Harder, was it Eisman in the store?
yeah, Heisman was there, and then who was,
Brams were there for a while, for a year or so.
yeah,
And now the store, as you remember, was always that one-story building?
Oh, yeah.
Ralph Quayle, he was another one that owned it.
So you never remember whether there were two stores in the corners?
No.
I guess the second and the third building were both stores at one time, years and years ago. What do you remember about the store?
The only thing I remember about the store was they were always talking about the fellows playing cards on the Cracker Barrel in the store when we were kids. We went down, Dad took us down, or Mother or something, and I went in the store down here, and here's this wooden barrel with a board on top, and the boys are playing cards around. And I can remember that barrel, and all the boys playing cards, and Ralph Quayle, not Ralph Quayle, but what was his name, John, when we were kids, John Laughlin, we put firecracker on the wood, and why, don't make any difference. But anyway, that was a great place to congregate, to catch up on the news as to what was going on in the store. And
So there was one gas pump or two pumps out in front?
they had one
I
gas
don't know.
one gas pump. They pumped the thing up and you could see the gas come up in the thing and then stopped and put the hose down, let it drain out.
Did they sell kerosene too?
I don't know if they did or not. They probably did. I don't remember it then. Because I did remember an old gas pump.
So when you were about 10, about 1930, who was running the store?
Oh, that was Ralph Quayle.
Might have been. Or the Brams, or
30.
there was another one in there.
Hollowell or something like that?
No, don't remember them.
Okay. What did you usually get when you'd go down to the store?
Candy.
Candy.
Yeah. Get a loaf of bread once in a while, but Gene Raymond, I know him, I rode down with him in the Model A Ford, and he wanted to get 5 pounds of sugar. And we had snow like we have now, with banks on the side of the road, 4 or 5 feet high. And come back up through with the Model A Ford, and Gene says, I think we can drive right into the snow a little bit and it won't do any harm. And he watched the snow fly. And the snow was so hard, the car went right up the bank, tipped over.
Oh man.
And I could see that sugar going all over the inside of that car. Two fellows come along, tipped the car back up on its wheels again. I can remember that. Went on home just as nice as anything. And we didn't have any sugar left, but I can remember buying that 5 pounds of sugar and tipping it over right up here by the Honeywell's.
Now in the 30s, people wouldn't be getting like boots and rubbers and stuff at this store, would they? They
No,
go
no.
to Canandaigua?
They had nothing but groceries.
Well, groceries. Okay, so you had 2 kids, and is Faye the older one?
No, Dale's older than Faye.
Dale's older than Faye. He was born when?
I'm 43.
He's born what month of 43?
March 24th.
March 21st of 43. And Faye was born when?
45.
45, and
Were they both born in the hospital?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, Dale is enough older than me, but he had some major health problems, right?
Yeah, when he was, how old was he, 7 or 9 years old?
yeah, right around there, 10 o'clock, right around 9 and 10.
His lungs grew fast to his ribs. And they
Is
had-
that a rare thing?
Yeah,
Oh no, it happened after he had the measles, and
So he had
they-
measles and then he had problems with his lungs developing?
Yes, well, I don't know, but anyway, they had to decorticate his lungs. His tissue had grown over his lungs and was trapping his lungs. So they had to operate and remove that from there. So then what happened, a year later, the same thing happened again the next year. And so back in the hospital, he had the same thing done again.
Where did they do this operation?
At Strong, was it Strong? It was Strong.
Strong,
Yeah.
that's it.
Now, did he have trouble breathing, or?
Oh, yeah, his lungs
No,
collapsed.
he had asthma all the time.
They never did get him all. He has a spot on one lung now that's never got operating, just a black spot on it. I just hope it stays that way.
Bad spot on it, yeah.
So, you were awful fortunate that he didn't die then.
Oh, yeah.
Very definitely.
Was there a 2-year period of time where you were afraid you're gonna lose him?
Well, for 6 months, I went every day to Strong Memorial to see him.
For a while.
So this is around 53, when he was about 10?
Yeah, I would say so.
That was the year I was born then.
Just staying alive day by day, and he finally started getting better.
What would they do for him now?
Oh, he goes to doctors constantly, it seems like. He has to, almost every week, he has to go for something or other, doesn't he?
Yeah, he has to be careful not to get pneumonia.
Oh,
His
And
lungs are not
he
that
has
good.
to watch his sugar pretty good.
does he
and,
have the ability in both lungs or just one lung working?
You know, both of them are working.
They're both working.
Part of one lung isn't the very best. So,
But he's, he was just as skinny as a pencil just for years and years. And then he decided to started gaining weight. And we were so happy when he started gaining weight because he was so skinny, so in school, the whole time he was in school. And then he couldn't stop him. He just kept right on gaining weight, and he's still
is.
having a problem now gaining weight. He goes to the doctor once a week trying to lose some weight. He is losing a little bit again, but you get so you eat out of frustration. When you're eating, you forget all your problems and things, and with losing the farm and everything, why that bothered him. It didn't bother me. I was glad to get rid of the thing.
Like my father. Now what was Dale doing right out of high school? Did he go to Alfred?
Yeah, he went to Alfred, and
Did he work someplace other than here on the farm?
then he went to work for Payback over in Shortsville
Oh, he did?
as a salesman. And he would have made a good salesman, but he wouldn't stop talking long enough for the farmer to say, "I'll take it." And so Payback decided, "We can't use you anymore. You're not selling enough machinery and things." And so he came home pretty disappointed and things, but I knew what his problem was, and he hasn't got over that yet today.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Now you and Dale and John Frankish and one of the Ayers boys was working here in the 70s, weren't you?
Yeah,
The time when your farm was the biggest, how many acres did you guys till?
we had 1,200 acres.
1,200 acres.
Yeah.
And it was mostly hay and corn?
Corn, mostly hay and corn.
Hay and corn.
That's all it was.
You had 2 big tractors. How many bottoms worth of ground
There
could
was
you...
seven bottoms on each tractor.
But you had another like a 40-20 too, didn't you?
Yeah, we had a 40-20 and a 40-30 and a 20-10.
So you were able to turn about 19 furrows at the same time, right?
Oh yeah, you could go into a field in just a short length of time. Then we had all of the big fitting tools to go with it and things, and you could get a lot of work done in a short length of time. And it worked out good. We had a lot of fun, but the hay market started dwindling down, and then
The cost of equipment must have eaten you alive, didn't it?
we had so much corn when Russia invaded Afghanistan, and we had the barns full of corn, 160,000 bushel, and you couldn't give it away.
Really?
And the banks took the whole works in order to make the mortgage payments. And that's the time when we decided that we're going to have to get out because we needed that money to pay the fertilizer bill and seed bill and everything else.
So fertilizer and seed and equipment and labor costs were going up, and the amount you were paid per bushel or per ton of hay was going down?
Still going down. The only thing that's good today, hay is a good price today, but corn is right down to nothing.
Did you ever think you'd see people, horse and buggies around here and again?
Never thought it would. I know the first time they went by, we looked out the window to watch them. Now we hear them coming, they don't even look out and things, so.
But I remember going to the Chautauqua in Canandaigua with Aunt Effie and Uncle Jim, and in their old Democrat wagon, like. I can remember that, and I remember I had a special dress. I don't know what it was, a dress I wore to Elsie's wedding, but I was flower girl. I think it was, no, it wasn't Elsie's wedding. So who was it? Well, anyway, I remember it was over to your house.
It might have been May Henry then.
Well, I don't know. But anyway, I remember that they would always stop and take me to Chautauqua with them, and it was always part of a children's program when they...
When you say Chautauqua, down there at Lake Chautauqua?
No, it's what they called Chautauqua in Canandaigua.
Oh, okay.
And it was in the summertime for, I don't know how many weeks, but they had a program, I don't know, maybe it was 2 weeks, I don't know, but it was quite well known, and it was in a big tent, and everybody went to it.
Was it religious affiliated or just
No,
learning
no,
and?
Just an entertainment
Uh-huh.
program. And they had all sorts of acts, bird acts, a lot of bird acts, trick bird things, and just different programs that would be of interest to anybody and everybody.
Huh. Herb, did you or George ever play town team baseball, or were you too busy with the farm?
But George played baseball. George was a good baseball player. I had to go home and work.
Did he
One of us
play?
had to work, so
Did he
George
play
had-
for the school or down here?
Go down to Gorham School.
Okay.
And so George played baseball. Frank Minner and George were good baseball players, and when we were going to grade school. But I had to come home and work, and so I never had a chance to. Well, I did play once in Canada. I was in charge of the bat boy and things, gathering up all the stuff, and we were way behind out in Canandaigua and not Valvano, but
Chineco?
was the pitcher. He was one of the Canandaigua's greatest pitchers they ever had. And we were way behind, and I remember the coach put me in, and I can hear everybody hollering now. But then the bat boy, let's see what he can do. Well, this fellow wound up and threw the ball, and I just stood there and let him throw three right by me. Went and sat down. That was the easiest thing to do. Boy, I can't think who he was, but
Was this for the Gorham school
it was
team?
Gorham School. Yeah.
Okay.
So George and Frank Minner and Don Phelps
Oh, okay.
were good ball players. And, George could really belt a ball.
I was going to ask you about your mechanical ability. I know you're real mechanical. Where'd you get your ability? Did your dad teach you, or do you teach yourself? Or
No, we taught ourselves. I just picked it up on my own. Just natural instinct, I guess, and things, and picked it all up on myself, overhauled the tractor and everything else, and Dad would let us do it.
boy, you're amazing as a mechanic. I asked about Dale. I forgot to ask about Fayenne. Where did she go after high school?
She went to Albany State. We give her 5 years in math.
Okay.
Got her master's in mathematics. in
And
Albany.
she's still working at General Electric
Got 2 years and a couple of months yet.
to go, and Dale is working at down the
Experimental station.
experimental station in Geneva. Well, you two have, how many grandchildren? Four?
Just,
4.
yeah.
One boy and 3 girls.
Yeah, one boy
Right
and
next
3
door.
girls, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. This was very interesting. Thank you.